Well, here we go. Here we go. The Seahawks are going to take on what some people will call their most hated division rival, the Santa Clara 40-Winers. I do have to give the Santa Clara 40-Winer fan base credit to where credit is due. Believe it or not, they actually have a very strong following on YouTube. There is a group called the San Francisco 49er Empire, which is their group for what is known as the NFL Trash Talking Circle on YouTube. And I've seen I've seen some videos of San Francisco fans, and I got to say that they are very creative. They're very passionate. Some of their videos are actually really well done. It's kind of funny. So if you are one of those members of the 49er Empire, if you're looking for a trash talking video, you got the wrong video. Back in the day, I trash talked a little bit with the Seattle Mariners. It did not work out so well, and it's just not my style. It's just not what I do. I'm more of a debate stats guy, which is fine, but that's just trash talking's not who I am. That being said, though, I will trash talk with by doing it with close friends, so like my buddy Canuck, who is, or Ian, or whatever name he goes by online, with the Seattle Thunderbirds and Everett Silvertips. We'll go back and forth. My buddy, little Nicky, he's a Dallas fan. We'll go back and forth. So I'll trash talk in my close group of friends, or I will do it in very, very small ways. Like, for example, the Seahawks are going to play the Santa Clara 40-Winers. But that's not the Winers' real name. Shh! Don't tell anybody. Shh! So, if the Seattle Seahawks lose to the Santa Clara 40-Winers, I will refer to the Santa Clara 40-Winers as their real name, which I'm pretty sure we all know what that name is. But I will refer to them as the Santa Clara 40-Winers until they beat the Seahawks. Okay, so this game is going to be on Thursday night, and as I touched very briefly with my recap video of the Carolina Panthers game against the Seahawks, it just seems that the NFL has a knack for scheduling teams that are subpar or have subpar records on Thursday night. I don't know how they do it. I don't know if it's just by coincidence. Thursday night football is still a relatively new thing. But last year was a prime example where you just kind of looked at who was playing on Thursday night and you just kind of had this reaction of, really? This game's on prime time? Okay, I guess I'll watch it because there's nothing else on. And that's basically, and I bring that up because it doesn't help that both these teams sit at 2-4 at the bottom of the NFC West division. And it just continues that statistic. Now, I know that there is some more competitive games, and there are teams that enter Thursday night with records over 500. I get that, but I don't know. It just seems that every single time I'm watching Thursday night football, it's against two subpar teams, and their chances are they're in the lower tier of the NFL, and the only way that people would watch these games is if it's the only game on TV, which is exactly what Thursday night football is. But we'll see how Thursday night football evolves. I would not be a bit surprised if the NFL scheduled games on every single day of the week except for Friday, because I believe there is a federal law saying there will be no professional football on Friday because of high school football. I could be wrong on that, but I have heard that rumor. So the Seahawks and Winers come into this game at 2-4. Must-win situations for both teams. On Seattle's side, they're looking for their first road victory. They're also looking for their first win against a division opponent. This is the first time the Winers will play an NFC West division opponent, so it's big for them. And it's also big in the sense that whoever wins this game will be 3-4, locked in third place of the division, one game under 500. I haven't seen the Winers schedule up, but the Seattle Seahawks will have an opportunity to at least be 4-4 going into their bye week against the Dallas Cowboys. Whoever loses is going to be in very bad shape. It is very difficult to go slowly but surely to the bottom of the division, and it will be, at least for the Seahawks point, they will be 0-2 on the division. they will have played 4 road games and still looking for their first road victory, which is very concerning. That's a concern. But hopefully the Seahawks will win, so that way the Winers, are in that position. Okay, so the 40 Winers are led by their quarterback, Colin Kaepernick. Kaepernick comes into this game completing 111 completions out of 178 attempts for a percentage rate of 62.4. For almost, barely, one ratio, there's almost a ratio here, but it's by like 0.3344, whatever it is. He's throwing 6 touchdowns throughout the season. Good, but he's throwing 5 interceptions. So there's almost a 1-to-1 ratio for every touchdown Kaepernick throws, he throws an interception. So that is very concerning if you are a 40-Winer fan. The offensive line for him, however, is not very good. It's kind of like Seattle's, which I'll talk about later, because Colin Kaepernick has been sacked 19 times. But I'll go more over that in a little bit. I did not realize how many veteran receivers the 40 Winers had. They have Anquan Bolden, who leads the team in yards in passing yards for receptions, with 333 yards thus far, heading into Week 7, and he has 2 touchdowns, averages just under 12 yards per catch. But then you got Torrey Smith. Now he's only been targeted 25 times. He's only caught the ball 14 times, but he has almost just as much passing yards as Anquan Bolden does. He's only 10 yards behind him. Not only that, he averages 23.1 yards per catch. So it's going to be Anquan Bolden and Torrey Smith that we're going to have to watch out for. The Legion of Boom is going to have their work cut out for them in this game. Another player the Seahawks have to watch out for is the tight end Vernon Davis. Vernon Davis has only caught the ball 8 times throughout the season, but he has over 100 yards. He hasn't caught a touchdown yet, but when he does catch the ball, he makes the yards matter, averaging over 13 yards per catch. So that is a little bit look at what who is leading the offensive unit for the Santa Clara 40 Winers. Now, that also being said, though, I think that this game is you're going to see a lot of defensive linemen shine in this game because, as I mentioned before, Colin Kaepernick has been sacked 19 times. But his counterpart, Russell Wilson, on the Seattle Seahawks, has been sacked 26 times. So both offensive lines are not very good. So I'm pretty sure the defensive units are going to be licking their chops, saying, "Okay, let's get to the quarterback. Let's make them hustle out of the pocket because the pocket is going to collapse." So I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we did see a close grind-out game like we kind of did, and we kind of did it with the Carolina Panthers game in that regard. A stat I don't necessarily know if it's still true anymore. At one point, going into last week when the Seahawks played the Cincinnati Bengals, Colin Kaepernick and Russell Wilson were the top 2 most rushed and most pressured quarterbacks in the NFL. So that just goes to show you that from a quarterback standpoint, going into this game, kind of even in that regard because they're going to have a pocket that's going to collapse basically when they hike the ball. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But I am expecting to see a lot of blitzes, a lot of people trying to contain both quarterbacks. Both quarterbacks are very mobile. Kaepernick can run. I don't think he's that good. I mean, he's good, but he's not that good. But if he gets out in the open field, I mean, he's gonna run for 20 yards. He did that in the NFC Championship game on more ways than one. Both quarterbacks can run. Now, I believe the Seattle Seahawks will win this game. And and some of you might be saying, well, wait a minute, you said that against the Panthers. You've also pointed out the fact the Seahawks haven't run a road game. The Seahawks have blown 2 four-quarter leads. How could I possibly pick the Seattle Seahawks over the Santa Clara 40 Winers? Well, for starters, despite being despite the Seahawks blowing their leads in the fourth quarter, which we discussed in the previous video, Santa Clara has been blown out in 3 out of their 4 losses. And that fourth loss was allowing the New York Giants to come back and win 30-27. Then you look at this. The Pittsburgh Steelers. They lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers 43-18. They lost to the Arizona Cardinals 47-7. They lost to the Green Bay Packers 17-3. And I also understand that those are against probably some good, solid playoff teams, but at the same time, those are blowouts. I mean, they didn't even stand a chance against those teams. The Seahawks at least hung tight against the Packers when they lost to Green Bay in Lambeau. And then, of course, like the Seattle Seahawks, the Santa Clara 49ers have had a collapse in the fourth quarter, like I said, with the Giants. So we're really looking at 2 pretty even teams here. But I do think because the Seahawks have been in every single game from beginning to end, that will definitely play an advantage. And the other reasons are, some particular statistics. Okay, we will start with the Seattle Seahawks. How many yards they allow their opponents. They allow 235 yards per game to their opponent. The Niners are averaging 320 yards per game, allowing that many yards. For passing yards. For yards allowed, the Seattle Seahawks allow an average of 335 yards per game. The San Francisco 49, the Santa Clara 49ers, they allow 422.7 yards per game. Okay, to put that in perspective, the Seahawks allow, on an average, 3 football lengths of yards. The Santa Clara 49ers allow 4 football lengths of yards, and then some. So that's another stat that favors the Seahawks. Yards rushing. Seattle averages more rushing yards. They average more passing yards. For total offense, Seattle averages just under 380 compared to Santa Clara's 340. Points allowed per game. Santa Clara allows just under 27 points a game compared to Seattle's 20.8. But here's the big one. Seattle scores an average of 22 points a game, just around 22 points. Santa Clara averages 16.7 points a game. The reason why that is such a big deal is because that is last in the NFL. That is dead last, bottom seller. I mean, that is the bottom of the entire National Football League. So that is another stat favoring the Seahawks. The key, however, to beating the Santa Clara 49ers, there are 2 keys. The first one is Seattle has had a very difficult time defending the tight ends. And they're going to have to deal with Vernon Davis, who is a very legit tight end. He might be old, but he has burned the Hawks before. Seattle has allowed 36 receptions to tight ends this season, which is 29th in the NFL. They have allowed tight ends to have 479 reception yards, which is 31st in the NFL, and they have allowed 5 touchdowns. They have allowed tight ends this season to score 5 touchdowns, and that is 30th in the NFL. So if the Seahawks are going to contain the Niners, start with Kaepernick and then go to Vernon Davis. They must shut him down. Last but not least, contain Colin Kaepernick. Kaepernick can run, but make him step up in the pocket and beat you. He has a tendency to be his worse if you contain him, because he's very fast. You blitz him, he's gonna break the blitz and he's gonna burn you for first down. But if you can contain him and make him beat you with his arm, you got a shot to win the football game. So I'm gonna go with the Seahawks. For those of you who have made it this far in this video, my predictions this year are 4-2. I'm coming off a loss. I thought they were going to beat the Panthers. I had a 4-game winning streak, unfortunately, including the Cincinnati game. But so I currently sit at 4-2 at my predictions, and I am picking the Hawks to get their first NFC West win and their first road win of the season on Thursday night in Santa Clara. Feel free to comment. If you are going to comment, get those comments in soon, because since it's a short week, I'm hoping to get the comment video up and running on Wednesday night. So thanks for watching. Go Hawks, and let's take down those winners.